President Zelenskyy of Ukraine is now unleashing at Donald Trump in a powerful video that Zelenskyy made and posted after one of Russia's most deadly strikes yet, killing about 20 Ukrainians, 4 or 5 children were killed. The European Union building was attacked. The United Kingdom building was attacked. You have Zelenskyy saying, what the hell is going on, basically, in the United States of America. He doesn't use those exact words, but he goes, you said in the United States last week or a week and a half ago that Putin was going to be on his best behavior. You said that Putin was wanting to make a deal with you. It doesn't look like it, Donald. It doesn't look like what's happening. Let me show you this video that Zelenskyy made. I think it's one of his strongest videos yet, directed at Donald Trump and his entire despicable regime. And Zelenskyy does not hold back here at all. Let's play this clip. We made the clip as an AI translation in English, just so our English-speaking audience can understand it. Here, play this clip.
Dear Ukrainians, both men and women, all day today, rescue operations have been ongoing at several locations in Kyiv, clearing the rubble after the Russian strike. This was one of the largest attacks. There were nearly 600 drones, 31 missiles, including ballistic ones. As of now, it is known that 19 people have died in Kyiv, including 4 children. My condolences to all the families and loved ones. This strike clearly demonstrates that Russian objectives truly have not changed. They want to wage war, striking not only at our people, not only at our cities and communities. Russia is now attacking everyone in the world who seeks peace. This is a strike against Ukraine. This is a strike against Europe. It is also a strike by Russia against President Trump and other global actors. In Washington, we heard that Putin is supposedly ready to end the war, to meet at the leaders' level and resolve key issues. But he chooses ballistic missiles over any real steps toward peace. He kills children in order to avoid talking about when and how peace will come. The problem is that he is not afraid to strike at those very leaders to whom he makes promises. And it's not just the President of America. This also applies to countries that still trade with Putin, such as China or India and other countries in Asia and Latin America. Russia is simply drawing them into being its accomplices with such strikes, with such killing of people. Today, there were many principled reactions to this Russian evil. Condolences to our people, to our country. European leaders are principled in this regard. Public leaders, politicians in many countries. I am grateful to everyone in America who now feels how inhuman this strike is, what a desire for war stands behind it. Now, when everyone is trying so hard to end the war, Russia is striking ordinary homes, an ordinary city, deliberately with groups of drones, and thoughtfully adds missiles, so that there would be more casualties. Kharkiv is going through this, as are Sumy, Kherson, Zaporizhia, our cities, our communities. The world needs to give a clear response to this evil. There are no deadlines that Putin hasn't broken. There are no diplomatic opportunities that haven't been ruined because of Russia. Strong actions are needed. I thank everyone who understands this. Sanctions are needed, tariffs are needed on those who sponsor this war in one way or another.
And here's what Zelenskyy said in the post with that video. In Washington, we heard that Putin is supposedly ready to end the war, to meet at the leaders' level and resolve key issues. But instead, he chooses ballistics over any real steps towards peace. He kills children in order not to talk about when and how peace will come. In other words, Donald, you're getting played before the world, and it is incredibly embarrassing at this point. What the hell are you doing? Well, Donald Trump's chief propagandist, Caroline Leavitt, was asked pretty much that question during the press conference yesterday. So it seems, Caroline, that Putin doesn't want peace. He's not agreeing to a ceasefire. He's not agreeing to security guarantees. He's not agreeing to a bilateral or trilateral meeting. And he's escalating the ballistic missile strikes and the Shahed drone attacks, where he gets those drones from Iran against Ukraine. So what say you, Caroline? To which she responds, both sides have their issues. It's not like Ukraine's just innocent in this thing. They were invaded, Caroline. What are you talking about? They were invaded. They're defending themselves, whereas Russia is targeting innocent Ukrainians and taking them out in a mass genocide with drones. The hell is this right here? This is so freaking disgusting that this is being said in the White House in the name of the U.S. Here, play this clip.
The drone and missile strikes that took place overnight in Ukraine. General Keith Kellogg, the president's special envoy, has described these attacks as egregious. Do you agree with that description, and do you view President Putin as an impediment to getting peace between these two countries?
Well, it's not about if I agree, it's about what the president thinks, and I know what the president thinks because I talked to him about this. He was not happy about this news, but he was also not surprised. These are two countries that have been at war for a very long time. Russia launched this attack on Kyiv, and likewise, Ukraine recently dealt a blow to Russia's oil refineries. They have taken out, as a matter of fact, 20% of Russia's oil refinery capacity over the course of their attacks throughout the month of August. So the president is continuing to watch this intently, and this killing, unfortunately, will continue as long as the war continues, which is why the president wants it to end. And that's why he's worked harder than anyone to end this war, which would have never started if he were president. But perhaps both sides of this war are not ready to end it themselves. The president wants it to end, but the leaders of these two countries need it to end and want it to end, must want it to end as well. And I think the president will make some additional statements on this later.
Let's take a look at what Zelensky's posted in response. Sanctions are needed, Caroline. Tariffs are needed against those who sponsor this war in one way or another. The end of the war is possible thanks to strength, not words, thanks to strength of pressure on the only one who continues to strike and drags out any settlement. Russia kills every day, Caroline. Therefore, every day they must feel pain for what they are doing, and this is possible. The world sanctions, tariffs, support for Ukraine, our strong army, our ability to defend lives and respond powerfully to the Russian war machine. Eternal memory to all whom the Russian state has killed. Then he speaks to the United Nations Secretary General, Antonio Guterres, and says, I spoke with the United Nations Secretary General. I'm grateful for his important words of condolences and solidarity with Ukrainian families who lost their loved ones as a result of Russia's overnight strike on Ukraine. It was one of Russia's largest attacks. All necessary services are still working on the ground, eliminating the consequences of the strike. We discussed the steps that must be taken to stop the killing of people. Ukraine is ready for the meeting at the level of leaders. Only in this format can all the most important issues be addressed. Yet Russia, in response, only puts forward new conditions and continues its aggression. We support the Secretary General's position that a ceasefire should be the first step towards peace. I thank Secretary General for his clear support of Ukraine's territorial integrity and sovereignty. The world must restore the power of international law and respect for the principles of the UN Charter. You better believe that is a direct message to Donald Trump. We need to restore the power of international law. Hey, Europe, Coalition of the Willing, Canada, Australia, because the U.S. is not a reliable ally anymore at all. You have the NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte sending his condolences to Zelensky. Thank you for your support, Zelensky responds. You have the President of Italy, Giorgia Meloni, saying condolences as well. Thank you for your support, says Zelensky. The President of the European Commission, von der Leyen, she sends her condolences, and Zelensky explains, I'm grateful for the condolences and solidarity with our people following such a cynical and brutal Russian strike. Last night was one of the largest attacks on Ukraine. The Russians chose Kyiv as their main target. The search and rescue operations is still ongoing. We're grateful to everyone who stands with Ukraine now and does not remain silent. Hint, hint, that message is directed at Trump. We discussed our diplomatic efforts to stop the killings, to end this unprovoked Russian aggression, and to guarantee real security for our people. There is much work being done at the various levels precisely for this purpose. But until Russia takes real steps towards peace, the pressure on it must be intensified. Ursula von der Leyen shared the updates on the preparation of the 19th EU sanctions package and coordination with our other partners. We also also talked about our European integration path and a simultaneous opening of the negotiating cluster for Ukraine and Moldova. We expect a position and decision in the near future. I mean, just take a look at the site where over 20 Ukrainians died, 4 children are dead. In Kyiv, people are bringing flowers to a makeshift memorial in memory of the children whose lives were taken by the genocidal maniac Vladimir Putin. Horrific, horrific stuff. Ilya Pomerenko, who writes for the Kyiv Independent, in response to what the United States has been saying recently, says, or Trump's been saying, you would have to be either staggeringly incompetent or monstrously shameless to stand before the press without blinking and draw a moral equivalence between Ukrainian strikes on Russia's oil depots, Ukrainian strategic bombers, ammunition depots, and military factories, which, by the way, rarely even result in casualties, and Russia's missile attacks on Ukrainian residential buildings that repeatedly bury entire families under rubble in the dead of night. We are living in an era of phenomenal shamelessness in official rhetoric, but future generations will look back on this time with deep shame. And I also think about the atrocities being committed in Gaza right now, as Israel has launched a full-fledged invasion there of Gaza. Although Donald Trump had previously said that he would make that issue well, that he would bring peace to Gaza in 24 hours. Clearly not the case at all. President Zelenskyy posing for photographs with the chief of the UK defense staff. You see them right there. And then speaking of the United Kingdom, I want to show you this video clip right here. Very powerful words by the former foreign minister of the United Kingdom, who does not hold back on the Trump regime and everything that he's observing. Here he is right here, Sir Malcolm Rifkin, the former foreign secretary of the UK. Here, play this clip.
Well, the summit itself was a mistake from the start, because you don't have a summit without doing a lot of preparatory work. But in addition to that, there's some self-imposed foolishness by President Trump. He had made it clear, we thought, publicly, that if Russia reacted in a hostile way, then the United States would impose very severe additional sanctions, would give far more help to Ukraine, and would punish Russia in that way. Now, not a word of that has been said since the end of the summit. And when asked, we're told, well, this is something the president has to ponder over for a week or so. And that's ridiculous. We know perfectly well that if this was China, they would say he's a paper tiger. In other words, someone who sounds fierce, but is toothless at the end of the event. And that is very disturbing. I take no pleasure in making these comments, because when the president of the United States cannot be believed when he issues a clear threat to a potential aggressor as to what will happen if that aggression happens, how will that be received in Taiwan, facing possible invasion by China and having been promised help and assistance by the United States? Who else will take comfort from that? So there are wider repercussions simply than the impact for Ukraine, important though that is at this moment in time.
Do you think Donald Trump himself will feel humiliated by this?
Well, if it was a self-imposed one. I mean, it was nonsense to believe. You see, he's got form. In his first time as president, we all recall that he invited the leader, the president of North Korea, Kim Jong-un, the dictator, one of the most vile dictators around the world. And without any preparation, he was invited to meet the president of the United States, something he never dreamt would ever happen. And Trump had convinced himself, though nobody else, that the sheer force of his own personality and skill and negotiating deals would mean that as a result of that meeting, the North Koreans would give up their nuclear weapons. It was absurd. It never happened. North Korea now has more nuclear weapons than they had at that time. And yet he learns from nothing from his own previous experience, because he's surrounded by sycophants. He's not, most presidents and prime ministers of Western countries, their advisors are there not just to tell them what they want to hear, but to warn them against some of the ideas. I had that myself when I was Foreign Secretary. I had my immediate staff, who were Foreign Office diplomats, occasionally would say, no, this is not very wise what you're suggesting, Minister. Now, I might not agree with them, but I'd have to listen very carefully because they were professional people with many years of experience. And every previous president of the United States, Democrat or Republican, would have behaved in that way as well. Trump is the first to ensure that those around him will only say, yes, Mr. President, you're so wise, Mr. President, you're so successful in everything you do. That is the sadness of what the world is having to live with, and American people in particular.
And by the way, it wasn't only him not holding back yesterday. You had the president of Portugal saying that Donald Trump is a Putin asset. Just saying. He's an asset of Putin. He's a Soviet asset. Zero trust in him whatsoever. We must view him and view the United States as Soviet satellites. Just think about that. This is embarrassing, folks. How do we know? Could we have our media just call this out the way we are right now about Donald Trump's treason and traitorous behavior before our eyes with respect to Putin and a lot of other topics as well? Hit subscribe. Let's get to 6 million. Thanks for watching.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to add the MeidasTouch podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts for new updates every single day.